Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jordan Giesecke, and this is The Limiting Factor. A few weeks ago, there was a lot of exciting news and speculation about Tesla and vehicle-to-grid. A lot of this conversation was focused on whether Tesla could do vehicle-to-grid. However, I haven't seen analysis that provides an answer on whether Tesla should do vehicle-to-grid. The purpose of this video is to attempt to answer that question. We need to know whether vehicle-to-grid is worthwhile to understand whether Tesla would even try to work through the regulatory and technical challenges. Before we get started, there are 4 assumptions to keep in mind. First off, accuracy. No company has done vehicle-to-grid on any large scale. Without data, I'll be making some rough guesses. Second, I'm assuming Tesla would be able to overcome any technological and regulatory hurdles. Third, Tesla would need to be willing to replace battery packs at cost at the end of the battery's life. This shouldn't be an issue because Elon has said that Tesla doesn't make money off repairs. The fourth assumption is that electricity companies would pay for electricity added to the grid, or at least provide a credit on the customer's account. The best place to start is the price difference between peak and off-peak rates in the US. I've picked the US to keep everything in US dollars. I'll refer to the difference in cost between the peak and off-peak rates as the swing rate. The swing rate is important because the best way to make money off vehicle-to-grid may be to buy electricity from the grid when the price is low and sell it back to the grid when the price is high. I ran a non-scientific poll on my Twitter page, and over 80% of people have a swing rate greater than 3 cents per kilowatt hour. This means for vehicle-to-grid to be profitable, the degradation cost of storing that electricity in the car's battery needs to be less than 3 cents per kilowatt hour. Based on that poll, I'm also going to pick 7.5 cents per kilowatt hour out of the air as an average swing rate. 3 cents and 7.5 cents will become relevant later in the video. I said in my last video on vehicle-to-grid that the million-mile battery was key to implementing vehicle-to-grid. The million-mile battery is designed to last 4,000 cycles, and Tesla is targeting $100 per kilowatt hour at the pack level for production cost. Let's assume a battery pack size of 60 kilowatt hours, which is roughly the usable energy capacity of a Model 3 Standard Range Plus. How much electricity could a Model 3 store over the life of the vehicle with a million-mile battery? The amount of electricity stored by the million-mile battery over 4,000 cycles would be 4,000 multiplied by 60 kilowatt hours and would equal 240,000 kilowatt hours. The cost of replacing the battery pack would be 60 kilowatt hours multiplied by $100 per kilowatt hour, which equals $6,000. $6,000 for the cost of the battery pack divided by 240,000 kilowatt hours is 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour. If you remember, greater than 80% of swing rates were 3 cents per kilowatt hour or more, and the cost to store electricity in the battery pack in terms of degradation was 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour. The 3-cent swing rate minus the 2.5 cent storage cost would mean a 0.5 cent profit per kilowatt hour, which isn't much. However, at the beginning of the video, I suggested that the average swing rate was 7.5 cents per kilowatt hour. If we subtract the 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour cost of storage in the Model 3 battery pack from 7.5 cents, that means there's a potential 5 cents per kilowatt hour profit in the average market. If Tesla continues its 50% or greater growth rate per year, and the million-mile battery chemistry starts going into cars next year, Tesla could have 10 million cars on the road by the end of 2025 with the million-mile battery chemistry. Some people would use vehicle-to-grid heavily, and others not at all. Without any good number as a reference, let's assume that the average vehicle will sell 1 kilowatt hour to the grid each day. 5 cents per vehicle times 10 million vehicles times 365 days a year is about $180 million a year. How much of this money would the customer get, and how could this be implemented? First, most of the hardware to make this work would already need to be built into the vehicle. At most, a customer should need to shell out $1,000 to have a wall connector and/or safety switches installed by Tesla electricians. Second, my view is that any revenue above 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour should be a 70-30 split between the customer and Tesla. Tesla would justify their 30% cut by supplying the AutoBidder platform. AutoBidder is the software Tesla developed to automatically trade electricity between customers and power companies. The 70-30 split would mean Tesla would get 30% of the $180 million listed above. That comes to $54 million for maintaining software that they've already developed. Bear in mind that Tesla is expected to be producing greater than 10 million cars a year by the end of the decade, so the $54 million would be growing exponentially each year after 2025. Individual customers in most markets would probably be making less than $1 a day from vehicle to grid. Those with solar systems potentially more. However, it wouldn't really require any effort on their part other than to install a wall charger they probably would have bought anyways. In some markets where the swing rates are over 20 or 30 cents per kilowatt hour, it could be several dollars a day. Several dollars a day translates to over $1,000 per year. Does this make vehicle to grid worthwhile? If all my assumptions above are correct, then yes in some markets and probably in most markets. My view is that the regulatory hurdles would be considerable but manageable, especially if Tesla plans to become a major supplier to power grids anyways. The technology arguments I've heard against vehicle to grid don't hold much water for me. All of them could be engineered around or have been engineered around. My key concern: would the rest of the car hold up long enough to go through more than one battery pack? If not, the entire cost of the car might need to be factored into the calculation above, not just the battery pack. For a $38,000 Model 3 Standard Range Plus, that would mean the cost to store the electricity would be 16 cents per kilowatt hour instead of 2.5 cents, meaning it would only be profitable for swing rates greater than 16 cents. I'd have to run another poll to get more non-scientific numbers, but my guess is that less than 25% of people have swing rates of 16 cents or more. However, there's also a silver lining to a battery pack that significantly outlasts the car. As a customer, if the battery is going to outlast the car, you may as well use up some of that battery life for vehicle to grid and get some of the cost of the car back. What other car can do that? Yes, these cars could probably make more money from being robo-taxis on the future Tesla network. However, some people don't want other people in their car and would prefer to use the car's downtime for vehicle to grid instead. Vehicle to grid fits with Tesla's mission of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. And although not hugely profitable, it would be worthwhile and icing on the cake for both customers and Tesla. This would allow Tesla to make the most of sunk costs on software, and customers would, at a minimum, recover some of the vehicle cost and potentially earn a profit in some markets. Furthermore, it would be a killer app for people living in areas with expensive electricity and for people who can't afford a power outage. I'd put the odds of Tesla doing vehicle to grid at some point at about 70%. I'm interested whether you think Tesla will do this in the comments below. I'm still working on the upcoming Graphene video, which will drop in the next couple of weeks. In a few days, I'll be doing an interview with Chase Drum, who you may know from Autoline, and I'll share a link to that interview on Twitter when it goes live. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting me on Patreon with the link at the end of the video, or snag something off the merch shelf below. A special thanks to all the patrons listed in the credits. I appreciate all of your support, and thanks for tuning in.